What's up, YouTube peeps and barbecue freaks? Thank you guys for joining me today. Today's video is a brisket trim video. This is going to be a competition brisket trim video. I'm going to show you how I do it. Now, understand there are a number of different ways to do it. There are people who do it different than I do. There are people that do it a whole lot faster than I do. It takes me a while sometimes, so if this video is a little long, I apologize. But every time I post a video or a picture of my finished trim on Instagram, I constantly get asked from folks if I would do a video showing how I trim my briskets for competition. So that's what we're going to do today. If you're not a competition cook, just something you'll never do, listen, I understand if you skip. Or if this video ends up being too long and you just want to skip to the end and see what the finished product looks like, totally understand. I'm going to show you what the brisket looks like. Again, we'll get it opened up, cleaned up, and get the trim in. And that's coming up next. All right, so here's a quick look at the brisket. So we got a prime one. We're right at about 20.5 pounds. So $4.29 a pound, the total for the brisket. This thing is huge. This is the thickest flat that I've ever seen on a brisket. So I'm hoping that does as well. We're gonna get it out. I'm gonna get it wiped down, cleaned up, and then we'll get to trimming. All right, so first thing we're gonna do is, there is a lot of fat on top here. I wanna remove that. Now I'm using my 12-inch Dexter slicing knife. I like these longer knives for trimming briskets because you can get one long stroke. Sometimes you'll notice, and if I can find a picture, I'll put it in here so you can see what I'm talking about. But when people trim a brisket, the top part here is really choppy. I don't like that. I think when you do it that way, then you know, if you start out that way, you're going to end up that way. So you're going to end up with a slice of brisket at the top of it, as you put in your box, is going to look really choppy on top. And that's because a lot of times I'll take a smaller knife and just kind of saw at the brisket, where if you take a longer one here, you can get nice even strokes. So just want to take this fat off the top and a lot of the silver skin. Now this one started out at 20.5 pounds. By the time I get done with it, I'm reckoning it's going to be about, this one I'm going to leave a little bigger than normal. So I'm going to leave this one about 10 pounds when I'm done with it. So we are going to take off about half of this, remove half of this brisket. And I like to start with the bigger one so I can adjust it, do what I need to it, do what I need to do to it without worrying about making it too thin. You start out with the smaller brisket, you don't have as much leeway, in my opinion. This bottom part down here in the flat is actually pretty thin, thinner than I would like. So I'm going to remove some of this good portion of the bottom. My slices are actually going to come from right in here anyway. So we're going to remove a lot of this bottom part. So what I'm doing is I'm putting my left hand underneath this brisket, kind of lifting it up, keeping my knife parallel, and just trying to remove the silver skin. So get most of the silver skin off down here. There's still some up here and a lot of fat. So we're going to remove that as well. Again, just place your hand underneath the brisket to help lift it up as you're slicing. It's also going to help prevent you from like digging into the brisket. All right, so we're going to take off some of this decal fat. And I'm going to remove most of this point. All of this is going to come off. Before I cut this flat off, I do want to hit these sides up. So I like to make mine, start my brisket from left to right about 9 inches. So I have here, this is just a wooden skewer that I cut. This is exactly 9 inches. This is going to tell me, you know, where I want to make my lines. So I know this bottom part down here is going to come off. So I'm going to come down just a little bit lower. I see a line here. It's going to make a small light, or a light line on that side and on this side. Don't make that line too deep yet in case you need to adjust it. So I'm going to come up. That's going to give me just a slightly over 9 inches, which is fine because I'm still going to do some trimming. Yeah, slightly over 9 inches. So I'm going to bring this in a little bit. See, this line I can tell I'm having to adjust already. You use a ruler, a measuring stick, or a measuring tape, whatever you like. So left to right, I think I'm good. Get that out of the way. And I'm simply gonna start taking off the side here. Now, if you want to save this, you could cut off some of that fat, make tallow out of it or whatever. I've got a lot of this stuff saved up. I mean, my freezer's full of this, so I'm not going to save it all. I am going to save the point part, though. But the sides and the bottom, I'm not going to save. I'm going to come to the other side and do the exact same thing. There's a line here that I made. Go right down that line. So that's the sides. I know I'm gonna have to do a little more trimming, but let's take a measurement real quick. Yeah, so I'm still a little over 9 inches, probably 9.5 inches long, which is fine by me. Yeah, that'll work. So we're going to come down on this bottom end, and I'm going to start rounding this off. In case you're wondering, under this plastic glove, I have a cut resistant glove on, which I highly recommend, especially if you have a super duper sharp knife, which this is. So I'm going to come in on this bottom here and just, so I'm taking my knife and I'm going at a slight angle. Just remove some of that fat from the bottom. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. So get this turned around. All right, so we're gonna flip it over. The point still sits higher than the flat, so we want to bring that down some. I'm gonna do that on this back side. You have this mohawk we're gonna remove, which is gonna help lower it. It's going to work to bring this down some. So a lot of fat here has got to come off. All right, so I've got some of that removed. We're going to flip it back over, take a look at it. You see this big little chunk of fat here. I'm gonna remove that. Now this point does set a lot lower than it was a second ago, but still got some work to do. Just kind of push it out. Now this bottom part is a lot wider than that top part. If I take my stick here, yeah, it's way huge. That's more what I'm wanting, so I'm going to flatten this out and just come straight down. Light line, make sure it's straight. And if I'm happy with it, then we'll just cut it off. I'm gonna round this bottom off a little more. All right, so rounded that bottom off a little more. There's a little lump here. I want to bring this down. I want this top to be as even as possible, or as flat as possible. All right, now I will tell you what I'm a little concerned about. We'll do some trimming and see what happens, but you see this fat that runs right underneath here, or that runs right across here. I don't know if how I feel about that just yet. We'll see if I can remove some of it. I worry that my slices will start to break, crumble a little more in that area once that fat melts. But I'll trim it and I'll work on it and see how much I can get off. Point here, I do want to remove most of it. So I'm actually going to start by getting rid of some more of this decal fat here. All right, so we got some of that removed. I'm gonna, some more of this will come off, but I do want to start rounding it off. Make a small line, just like the bottom that I rounded off. I'm gonna do the same to the top. And I think I'm gonna come right in here. So which means I'm gonna, again, just make a light line. Make sure I'm happy with that. I can always readjust it if I need to. So I think that's gonna work. Actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna come right across here and go straight down. All this I'm gonna save. So I'll trim it up and I'll trim up this fat and, oh shit. See, when I'm paying attention, put a little slash in here. That's all right, I can remove that. We're gonna save that. I use that for my carne guisada. So, and the same with this rest of this here that I'm cutting off. All right, so I've got most of this point removed. I can see you can see how thick that is down here, or how thin that is compared to up here, the point. So we definitely want to, now it looks like it sits higher. So we definitely want to take off some more meat to bring that point down. We're gonna do it from the back side again. I'm just gonna work this, removing this fat cap. I'm not overly worried about exposing this meat. There's enough fat in here that I'm not worried about the meat like burning up or anything like that. So we're gonna get this removed, bring it down some, and see what it looks like. All right, so I got that bottom part trimmed up. Now this sets a whole lot flatter, which is what I'm looking for. trim the bottom part here. There is a little more silver skin up here that I want to remove. We'll get that off, and then almost done with this. Just a couple more things that we want to do. So one of the last things I'm going to do is I want to round this off on the top and bottom. So I'm going to take my shears and just start coming around the edge here, rounding it off. Go all the way around, and doing this is also going to remove a little more of this decal fat. We'll get this done all the way around, and I'll flip it over and do the bottom side. All right, so that's pretty much done. I rounded out the top, I rounded out the bottom. The last thing I'm gonna do is take my knife and just kind of scrape the top. Just got at a slight angle. Some of this fat there. And what I'm doing is just trying to catch any loose ends, any parts that are sitting just a little bit high, bring those down. Like I can see there's a, I don't know if you can pick it up, there's a little piece here that sits a little high. So you can see on the knife, I'm just scraping the top, not really digging into it. This is gonna help, in my opinion, the top of this brisket just look a whole lot more even, a lot smoother, and not so rigid. All right, so this is all I'm gonna do to it. In my opinion, it's finished. I might do a little more scraping right here on top, this little part, but I know me, if I don't leave it alone, I'm gonna spend another hour on it. But I think it'll do the job. Again, my slices are gonna come from right in here. So anything below here, I'm not overly concerned about. I might take a couple from up here, but we'll see. Once we inject this and cook it hot and fast, it's gonna plump up. It's gonna make this flat, well, the whole brisket, a whole lot thicker. So I'm liking that. I think it's gonna get the job done. We're gonna leave it alone, and we're gonna call this a wrap. We'll get packed up and get ready to head out for our next comp. All right, guys, so that is my competition brisket trim. Again, this is simply how I do it. Others do it different, do it a whole lot faster. This works for me, so that's why I do it the way that I do it. So hope you guys found that useful. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section below, and I'll make sure to get to them. So hope you guys enjoy that. We will see you on the next one. Take care.